Yeah, so I'm a little skeptical on these type of merges and these type of things in the near term, mainly because investor sentiment is the number one thing that rules price, right? So
Yep.
yes, this is probably keeping people from shorting it right now. They don't want to step in front of a freight train if it takes off.
Right.
We've seen an amazingly big bounce in Ethereum, but the one thing I'm seeing here, and I'll flip over to my chart and show, is that basically we have this kind of bullish consolidation. So you do see a bull flag forming. This is a very
Yep.
clear bull flag. Now, I don't want to see this candle break down too much. Right now, it's right at the lower end of that flag. But basically, the upside is somewhat limited here. I mean, there's the first resistance level, which is right here around 1700. So we're not too far away from that. And then even if it gets through 1700, around 1900 is the next big resistance level. So I'm in the camp where I look at this and I say, okay, yes, there's some upside left. And I believe that Bitcoin, Ethereum, they will see upside, but you could actually maybe see the run occurring into the merge and then a sell the news event. And I think that is the
Hmm.
likely scenario here, where maybe we get to 1900 and then once you see that merge occur, then the selling takes back over. So basically what we have is we had a breakout on Bitcoin in the near term right here. And you
Yep.
saw a close above with a confirming move following it. And what we've done since then is you've kind of created this little bit of a channel of consolidation right here, which is actually, I mean, a lot of investors say, oh my goodness, we've been down, pretty much 2, 4, 5 days out of the last 6 on Bitcoin. But notice how it's a very slow kind of grind lower. Today it's getting a little bit more fast, but for the most part, this is actually what we would refer to in the technical analysis world as bullish consolidation. And so what I'm
Hmm.
really watching is this 21.8-ish level. I want to see where it closes. It can close just below that, but you don't want to see it trade down in this range too much longer before it starts to move up. But I'm in the camp that over the next, rest of July into August, I think Bitcoin still has more upside to go. I'm looking at a target of 25.5, which is up here. And then
Yep.
eventually I even think we could get as high as around 28.5 or so right up here. This is kind of my max move though. This downsloping trend line comes all the way from the all-time high. So notice how these two lines are right in the same area. So I think that again, that would be your maximum upside. Your shorter term target would be 25.5. So I am bullish near term on Bitcoin, even though I'm midterm bearish. Yeah, so I think number one for me is a weakening dollar. I think also if the Fed on Wednesday is not as hawkish, if let's say they open the door to saying, hey, we're going to slow down, maybe we're going to
Okay.
pause, that would be a risk on scenario where all of a sudden you see this risk on in the stock market, NASDAQ stocks get another leg up, and that would also lead to another move up in Bitcoin. So I think the
Yeah.
weakening dollar would kind of coincide with that as well. We see those type of things move together. The more dovish the Fed, the more they're not tightening monetary supply, so the dollar doesn't necessarily get stronger. So for me, that's exactly it. The Fed decision Wednesday, GDP on Thursday, those would be the driving forces that would probably lift Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't read into it as a bearish signal. If anything, I kind of look at it in a contrarian view, is where you had one of the big whales holding, I think, $1 billion of Bitcoin. He unloaded a majority of his stake. And, if we've already seen that being distributed into the system, into the Bitcoin market, and investors have bought that up, maybe that's a small positive in all fairness, that the market was able to absorb that. And I know we have, some other, I think Mt. Gox might dump 150,000 Bitcoin. I want to see the market, the Bitcoin market absorb that. Maybe it goes down a little bit, but if it can absorb those type of sells, then what it tells you is even in a bear market, there are still buyers out there. And that's a very longer term bullish sign, even if it's not a very short term bullish sign. I think that's what it is. It's just political. It's not good to have federal government says recession and you have that plastered on all the newspapers out there and all the websites. So I think that's what they're trying to avoid. I think it's a little foolish. I've always found, and this goes to what I do as a trader, and when I mess up, the best thing you can do is just say, hey, listen, this is where it is. This is how we have to deal with it. And let's charge forward and correct it, or at least, move in the right direction. So I really think, the investing public, the public in general, they have to give more credit. There's more intelligence out there. People understand where things are because it's dollars and cents. And we know the price of energy. We know the price of food. We know the price of goods and homes and all these things. And it's a struggle for most people. I
Yeah.
would say the one thing I would do if I was them, I would classify as different groups, right? So for
Hmm.
instance, myself, I'm not in a recession myself. I mean, again, I think upper middle income, you're fine. I think it would be helpful if the government came out and said, hey, listen, if you're in this group of earners, yes, you are in a recession, and we are
Yeah.
going to do everything we can to help you, but not everyone needs the help. Yeah, so you're right. I mean, moving averages historically have played a big role. I follow the 20 moving average, the 50 to 200. I know a lot of people follow the 100 and the 150 as well. And basically, I don't know if there's something psychological that makes us as humans abide by some rules about like the past 20 days, which is the 20-day moving average, or if it's
Yeah.
just that we all have it on our charts now and we're all like, oh, look at that, and when you have a million people saying the 20 MA is being hit or it's breaking, that can psychologically trigger more selling if it's breaking versus if it's holding. So I'm not 100% sure about the underlying powers of the moving averages. It's just something that historically has always worked until it doesn't, right? Until it breaks. I think it does in some respects. So what I look at it when it goes to cold storage, kind of like that, is that when people bought it at 60,000 and it's down at 20 or 19 or 18, there's going to be a point where they're like, listen, I'm gonna have to I'm just gonna tuck this away. I'm a long-term hodler, and then as soon as price starts to spike, which is what we've seen recently, they're all of a sudden like,
Yep.
oh my goodness, maybe I should bring it back, because if I can just get back to 60,000, I'll sell and break even. That would be an amazing recovery. So it's a very psychological thing, and I agree that you just can't say, okay, there's a lot of storage going on off the exchanges, so that means people are just diehard going to hold forever, because mentality and psychology of the investor can change on a dime, and you know that. I know you know that. I think if the Fed said, listen, we are not going to stop until we get back to 2%, even if the economy weakens, and they raise 75. I mean, I think, again, the 75 or 100 basis points is somewhat non-factor at this point, but it really is that statement, because that statement, if they're like still gung-ho, like, basically hell or high water, we're going to make sure that inflation goes to 2% or under, then they're going to be raising a lot more, and that's going to spook the markets quite a bit. So I think that's the bottom line. That's why Wednesday is so important. Also, because Wednesday, again, you assume that they know the GDP number already, which will then guide us to what that GDP number should be. I think this is a huge aspect that most investors in crypto don't understand. It's the need for some sort of regulation, positive regulation, safety measures being put in. Again, if you want the big money to come in, and we're talking pension funds with trillions and trillions of dollars, and just putting 1% in crypto, that's a game changer. And if you want institutions to get involved. And so the fact is, I mean, there's a couple reasons. Number one is I really truly believe politicians see the amount of money that they're spending, and they're thinking, okay, well, we're going to spend even more money. So that makes Bitcoin even more viable as it eventually deflates the dollar. And I think also you have to think a lot of these candidates that are running for re-election or election, they have to get votes. Well, right now, a lot of the younger generation is super into crypto. So if they can talk positively about it, it brings more of a vote towards them. So it's honestly, who cares? I'm in the position of I love long-term crypto, so I don't care why they're doing it. I just want to see positive reform, and that is the best thing long-term for Bitcoin.